Welcome to the RotoWire / Morning Read Gaming Golf Podcast. Jeff Erickson here with Scott Jenstad and Jeff Ritter, fresh off the Valspar, where Scott talked up Sam Burns as a long shot on his betting sheet. Came in at 90-1. We like that. That's a good thing. Congratulations, Scott.
Hey, every once in a while, it's good to hit one. I feel like 90-1 takes the pressure off nicely, too. You're kind of playing with house money for a few weeks. It's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. So we're back. Jeff is back in his studio, no longer going to golf with famous NFL alumni at a great golf course. How was Firestone, by the way?
Firestone's awesome. It was definitely enough golf course for me, having barely touched my clubs in the last year in COVID. So I got my butt kicked, but it was a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend Firestone for anybody who finds themselves in the Akron area. I don't know what people would be doing passing through Akron, but if you're around there, it's a great spot. And it's fun to play golf with some NFL alums and knock it around for a while and, just kind of feel alive again in a way. It was the first work trip post-COVID, and it was a lot of fun. So,
is your golf game pretty good regularly?
I am a sneaky, streaky 16. So I usually hit shots that are, befitting a 30 handicap or like a 12. It's usually one of the two, and it could happen at any moment. So, but it's a scramble format, which is fun. I usually can I can contribute in a Scrabble team. That's a good format for me. So
sounds familiar. That's like my game, except add 3 strokes, and I'm a 19, but not like in a technical 19. But no one's tuning in for my golf game. So let's move on. Let's talk. We got the Wells Fargo coming up. All last week I heard, the Valspar is not that great of a field, but don't worry. Wells Fargo, it's going to be a loaded field. Then I get to my team and our league. I've got 3 golfers going this week. What the heck? No DJ, no Sergio, no Usti. I mean, come on, guys. Let's get together. But again,
you might need some better golfers on your team that might solve some problems.
I think you're right about that. It is a pretty strong field, and it's a popular course. People like the setup of this course. Usually draws well. They treat the golfers well. What should we pay attention to on this course?
Well, for me, it starts with the Green Mile. I feel like we've just about reached our limit of gimmicky marketing, names for a tough stretch of golf holes, and I believe the Green Mile is going to kind of put a bow on that for at least the season. But this is a big kind of burly golf course that can beat you up. It's long, it's tough. It's another. It along with Copperhead really are 2 of the toughest par 71 golf courses that the PGA Tour stops at. So. You kind of look for I would say you look for the macho golfer to have some success at a place like this.
Yeah, you look at the par 4s, 11 par 4s on the course, 8 of them are over 450 yards. We're talking about our golf game. That gives me the shakes right there. Just thinking about par 4s that are that long, but a lot of approaches from 175 to 225 is kind of what we come down to. There's a lot of long irons into greens, and especially around the green kind of stuff, I think is more important this week because there's, with those long approaches, you are going to miss some greens. I like guys who can scramble and get up and down from around the green. I think that's important this week.
How important is driving distance off the tee?
Pretty important. With these, the fairways aren't super narrow, but you do miss a lot because guys are hitting a lot of drivers. I think it's one of the weeks where it's definitely on the important side for sure.
Yeah, you look at the profile of players who've had success here. Justin Thomas, when he came from behind to win his PGA Championship, this is a Rory McIlroy playground. I know he's looked lost through a lot of this season, but I'm sure we'll probably get to him. But you look at that type of profile of guys who, if they've got that tee to green game, if this is a week where they can find it off the tee, it can go far for them.
Makes me think that this might be a good Bryson course. We haven't said that too much recently.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's the king of content and the king. He's featured in just about all of our shows for a while there. But you're right. He kind of the run up to the Masters and then fizzled at Augusta. We haven't really talked about him much, but on paper, you might say this Bryson would be a guy to watch this week.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the field here. Well, we usually start off with the DraftKings perspective, and we mix in the betting odds as well. So let's go ahead and do that. There are 6 players in the top tier. I always cut it off at 10,000. You can find your arbitrary cutoff point as you wish. But JT is the most expensive golfer, 11.3. Bryson's 11,000. Rahm at 10.8. Xander 10.5. Webb Simpson 10.2, and Rory at 10,000. let's face it, Rory is not in great form, but he has great course history here. Do you think he kind of recovers this week? We'll start with you, Jeff.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you'd love to see some signs that it's coming. I think if you're playing in the daily fantasy like DraftKings or FanDuel, I'd probably pick someone else off that tier. But for a straight bet at 12-1, 15-1, I think we're getting for him. I would probably take a shot. But I don't know. When you're looking at daily fantasy, those names you just listed, John Rahm to me just feels like he's lived in the top 10 for like 3 months. And obviously Justin Thomas, he's had a lot of success here. And I like Webb Simpson more as well. Those would probably be my 3 off the top tier that I would pick over Rory. Although obviously as I have Rory on my fantasy league, and I would love to see this be the week that he turns it around with one of his favorite tracks. I
think Webb's actually a member here, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah. Yep.
That always helps. Yeah, if I'm looking at the top, it's a tough week because as we get down to the bottom, we'll see, as you team build, it's tough to get. You can get one guy up top in here. It's really hard to get to. The names, we have a lot of elite names in this tournament, but the names in the 6,000s, low 7s are not as good as I would want them to be. So I find it hard to smash 2 guys in here. The guy that I really like, and Jeff mentioned him as I'd probably take John Rahm out of this. I think that Jeff talked about making top 10s. You look at since June 1st of 2019. So what is that? Almost 2 years, 33 tournaments on the PGA Tour, 1 missed cut, and 20 top 10s. That is an insane percentage of top 10s. It's not just doing well. That's almost 2/3 of the tournaments in the top 10. Just great tee to green numbers, great approach numbers, which you love here. He has great approach numbers in what kind of 175 to 200. The range, you're going to have a lot of shots in here. He's gained more than 4 strokes tee to green in 9 straight weeks. If I'm going somewhere to the top, it's going to be John Rahm to start my lineup.
I'm on it, but I like Simpson too. I forgot about the fact that this was the hometown course. I would lean Rahm, but I would not sleep on Webb Simpson this week. He always kind of flies just one level under the radar with the top tier guys on tour, but this also it feels like the planets might be aligning for Webb Simpson. So I'd try to plug him into some of those DraftKings and FanDuel lineups, and I take a shot on him at 20-1 as well.
The funny thing is his track record isn't amazing at this tournament. You would think, okay, it's his course and all that, but he it's not like he's terrible here. But you don't see the big string of top 10s in this tournament for him, let alone top 5s or championships. So but then again, he's such a solid golfer. It's hard to go wrong with just rostering him anyhow. It's just the opportunity cost that comes with him here. Who's the avoid in this top 6 here? Is it Rory? Is there anybody else that you wouldn't touch in those top 6, top 5 guys?
You mentioned Bryson. I'm not playing Bryson at the price. I mean, all these guys at the top can win. I mean, when you're talking about the top here, it's pretty solid. But Bryson's 11,000. I wouldn't play him over Rahm. I wouldn't play him over Rory. I wouldn't play him over Xander even. The off the tee game is just elite. But his approach numbers in this range, though, like 150 to 200 right in there, are not great over his last, say 36 rounds. And if I'm looking to nitpick on one of these guys, it's probably that. The fact he hasn't played since the Masters, plays in a little bit too. If I would have to fade someone in this range, I'd fade Bryson, and it's always fun to fade Bryson anyway, so that works well.
I probably would fade Rory also, as much as it pains me to say it, but he's been just drifting for a while now, and I've kind of reached the point with Rory where I'm just going to accept that I'm going to be a week late to whenever he finds it again. So it's a difficult, painful fade, but I would fade Rory out of this top tier.
And it's wild. We talk about Rahm with these, has missed 1 cut in whatever it is, 2 years. Rory's missed 3 cuts in 5 weeks. Like that for an elite guy. I mean, that's wild. It's just, we talk about the course history here. And I mean, you look at it, it's almost all top 10. There's a 16 and a 22 in there, but I don't know. 3 of the last 5 weeks, it's hard to pay down to 10,000. I just wonder what his percentage will be too in DraftKings. I wonder if people are going to be away from him. People are going to jump on him at that price with the course history. It's going to be an interesting percentage week with him.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's look at the $9,000 tier. Victor Hovland, 98. Patrick Cantlay, 96. Tony Finau, 95. Zalatoris, 94. Boy, we're never going to see him cheap again. Patrick Reed, 93, coming off a miscut. 3 miscuts already this season. Corey Connors, 92. Neiman, 91. And Max Homa at 9,000 even. That's a price that skyrocketed. Of course, he's the defending champ.
This range is awesome. I love so many names in here. We talked about last week. There was a lot of 9,000s. I love this range again. If I had to pick a couple, I love Hovland at 9800. I think building a team where you start with him is a really interesting build this week. If you kind of just cross off the top 6 and kind of build a more balanced team. I mean, he's got five top fives his last 10 tournaments, not even top 10s, but top 5s. He's right up there. Had the one win. Corey Connors hitting the ball so well. Last 6 tournaments, his worst finish is 21st. Finau's interesting. It's hard to bet Tony Finau because he doesn't win, but DraftKings points wise. Always up there. He was really hot in January and February, kind of cooled off, and then finished top 10 at the Masters. Has only played in the team tournament since then. But ball striking was elite in January and February. But if I'm going to pick a couple names here, I'm going to go Hovland and my boy Joaquin Niemann, who I always like to play at 9,100. Probably my 2 favorite in this range.
Niemann's coming out. I was wondering if you were going to get to him.
Oh yeah,
that's a Ritter favorite.
You've mentioned him enough too on this show where I've tuned in to the Joaquin Niemann rise that is definitely in effect. And Homa also is another player on the rise at 9,000, I believe. So I agree. This is a great tier, and I wouldn't sleep on Willie Z. Coming off the Masters, he's got the right profile for this course. Last time they had the event, it was a Max Homa debut victory. Zalatoris, you think that guy's going to win somewhere soon. Maybe this is the week as well. So, but I agree. It doesn't feel like if you're constructing one of these DraftKings lineups, I like Rahm, but then I might just move down to this tier and keep building from there. Cause there's everybody that Scott just said is tempting in their own way.
So how do you guys feel about Reed then? We talked about a bunch of names that everybody's going to like. Reed's 9,300. What do you guys? I kind of think he's going to be low owned this week. I think he slides through in this range.
I always just kind of go elsewhere when we get to these bigger ballparks. So I just feel like he's a little bit more behind the 8 ball, not being one of the bigger drivers on tour. So I tend to just go away from Reed this week. Although certainly capable of his game. Obviously, he can win anywhere, but. I just find myself going a different direction.
Wild range of results. Starting out with the American Express, miscut in Palm Springs. I mean that's hard to do, first of all, but he did. Then the Farmers, he turns around and wins. Then 9th place at WGC. Then another miscut at the Arnold Palmer. Then 22nd in the Players. Skips basically a full month. Gets 8th place at the Masters. Skips another 3 weeks, misses the cut. It's just kind of all over the map this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I flip a coin, I guess, on Reed. If you want to mix him into your lineups for the daily fantasy, I guess that's fine. But I don't know. I think I feel better about some of the other guys that are priced right around him.
It's also funny, we mentioned this range, and none of us have mentioned Patrick Cantlay at 9,600. I guess the recent form is just so bad, but wild that he's dropped. He was at over 10,000 for a while now. He's down in this range.
Yeah, and is he a fade for you? Or is there a fade in this group?
Yeah, I would probably fade Cantlay. Just recent form, and just there's all these other guys that just it feels like they're right on form. And I mean, Homa and Niemann playing the best golf of their careers, arguably. Oh, maybe inarguably. Connors, we've mentioned him just about every show. We're almost we should be under contract with Corey Connors at this point. We've talked about him so much. So I like those other guys more than Cantlay.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take stands sometimes. I'm not going to have any Cantlay off 3 missed cut. I'm actually not going to have Will Z this week. I love Will Z, but in this price range, I like the other guys more. Did not hit the ball well his last tournament, RBC Heritage. So if I'm looking for a reason not to play somebody, I love his game, but I'm probably going Finau, Niemann, Connors, and Hovland over him this week.
All right. Let's move on to the $8,000 tier, and there's a lot of interesting names here. Friend, almost friend of the show by given how often we mention him. You mentioned Corey Connors as a frequent mention. This is our most frequently mentioned golfer. Abraham Answer at 89, Sung Jae Im at 88, Harmon 87, Day 86, Keegan 85. Boy, is his price going up, but justifiably probably. Cameron Tengali at 84, Bubba Watson 83, Lowry 82, Griot 81, Fleetwood and English at 8,000. What jumps out to you? Let's start with Scott this time.
What jumps out to me is why is Tommy Fleetwood still 8,000? This guy in his last 3 tournaments, miscut 46, miscut. Last 15 tournaments on PGA Tour since the restart last year, he has 1 top 10. Like you talk about these names, and Fleetwood just doesn't fit in here anymore. He should be in the 7,000s. I just think he's way overpriced.
He has $8,000 hair though, so
that's I can't argue that fact.
You're up 1 tier for the hair. He's probably I guess, a fade for me. I think kind of a sneaky pick off this tier. I think Shane Lowry, he's just got this history of being a big game hunter, even beyond his British Open win. He's quietly had a good year. So he was someone that I flagged off of that tier. And then, I mean, obviously contractually obligated for Abe Answer. I didn't really build my lineups around him, but I think he's 40-1 on golf odds, which I like that a lot. But I think Lowry for me was kind of like the sneaky guy that I feel like might be a little bit more overlooked off of that tier that I found myself popping into the lineup.
That's annoying because he was my guy that I was going to target here. I didn't think anybody was going to mention him. I actually like him as a bet this week. I like him in DraftKings, 8,200, 9th, 21st, 36th, and 8th the last 4 weeks. He was a great ball striking at RBC Heritage, gained a ton of strokes tee to green at the Players in March also. I think Lowry at 8,200 will not be highly owned, and I also think he'll be on my betting card. We'll talk about bets later, but he's someone that I think is a really good play this week. I like that you mentioned him.
You find that annoying? I find that excellent. That means that you guys are in lockstep. When Narrative Street and Stat Street match up, that's good. That's a guy that I can lock in because I'm learning from you guys basically here.
What do you guys feel about Tringali? Obviously, he's priced up among guys he's not normally priced with, but 3 top 15s the last 3 weeks. I mean, really good ball striking numbers at Valero and Honda and wherever he played before that. I forget where it was. But what do you guys do with a guy like this that, is kind of breaking out, having this great season on a hot run, but, kind of priced up now with bigger names? How do you guys usually treat someone like that?
I like him as the straight bet, which I think golf odds 40-1. Why not? I mean, it feels like it's building for him, but in the daily fantasy games, I feel like you're paying a tax on somebody who's maybe just flying close to the sun for the first time in their career. But it's a great story, and it's fun to watch guys who've been out there. That's Tringali. He's got to be close to 10 years on tour. It feels like he's been out there for a long, long time to be at this point now. So
he's a grinder.
I'm rooting for him. I'd love to see a grinder at I don't know. I hesitate to use the word journeyman, but it'd be nice to see. It's always nice to see first time winners, like the emotion that Sam Burns had last weekend. And so I'll be pulling for him, but I probably would play him more as the straight bet as opposed to the daily fantasy games.
One more note in this range, since we had Sam Burns on the card last week, how beautiful was that ball in the water by Keegan on what was that, 16? That was amazing. I love that.
13, right? 13.
Oh, was it 13? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was waiting for him to go full Keegan the entire day, and he finally did. It was beautiful. He was the only guy in the water in that hole the entire day. It was awesome.
Yeah. I just want for me, it's always going to come down to the Miguel Angel Jimenez argument. That's what I wanted Miguel there to just kind of bicker
just
at
pops
him.
up out of the water, wags his finger at him.
Laugh at him or something when he does that. That's
with a glass of wine in the other hand.
That will always be my Keegan moment.
Yeah, that was amazing. A friend of ours, Scott Pianowski, mentioned in an email thread that Tringali has the most career winnings for someone who has not won on the tour. So,
wow.
That means he's doing something right at the same time. Just hasn't closed. But I'm rooting for him a little bit. I'm obviously biased because I got him on my team. All right, quickly, let's hit under 8,000. I won't go bracket by bracket. I want you guys to kind of point out anybody under 8,000 that you like. These are the guys that are going to make us fit things in. You're probably going to take 1 or 2 guys from this tier. Maybe are you dipping down below 7,000? We can talk about that. Talk about team structure. Jeff, who are some of your cheapies that you like?
I'm on to Harold Varner again. I think I flagged him a few weeks ago. This is also hometown course. And he's having one of his, he's for him also having one of a career best season. So I don't know that I would pick him to win, but if you're looking to fill out a lineup, if you put a couple of the high wattage guys in at the top, I like Varner rounding it out the bottom. I like Matt Wallace as well. 7,500 on DraftKings, just another guy who's starting to flash in bigger events. And if you're just looking for a reason, when you get below 7, I flagged Bronson Burgoon as a guy that just had a nice Sunday at the Valspar. You just need a reason if you're in the 6,000 range. So just someone that's coming off a nice finish in Tampa, maybe can carry a little momentum over, make a cut, and help a fantasy team along the way.
My favorite guy in the 7s, Jeff already mentioned, is Matt Wallace. Again, at 7,500, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. In the last 5 tournaments, an 18th, a 34th, a 3rd, and an 18th, and 1 miscut. Really good run lately. He didn't gain putting in a bunch of those, which I really like. It's not like he was just riding a hot putter. Gained 15.3 shots tee to green at Valero, 9.3 in approach. Hit it really well at Heritage also. So I like Matt Wallace. I think Lucas Glover in this range is really interesting. 7,800, playing really well lately. He's made 7 straight cuts. Hitting the ball really well, played really well. Valero finished 4th there, had a 19th at Honda. So I do like Lucas Glover, a little bit more expensive at 7,800. If you're getting cheaper, it's a tough week this week. Usually there's a couple guys in the 6,000s that jump out to me. It's like, oh, this is a guy I can fill in. But I like James Hahn a little bit, 6,800. He plays well at really good comp course is Genesis at Riviera, the Genesis tournament. He won there in 2015. He won here in 2016, finished 15th at Genesis this year. Played poorly last week at Valspar. He's a very hit and miss guy. Last 6 tournaments, 2 top 15s, but 3 missed cut. But he's a guy that, he's one of those guys that doesn't have to slide. He can actually compete a little bit too. And if you want to get really even cheaper, Adam Schenk is at 6,800, played really well the last 2 weeks, in the 18th and the 25th. Miscut the week prior, but really good recently. Not with lucky putting either. He really had strong tee to green numbers and approach numbers in both those tournaments. And if you want to get uber cheap, 6,400, Vincent Whaley has made 6 straight cuts and his top 36 his last 5 tournaments, where if you're down in the 6,400 range, you get someone that's finishing top 35 5 weeks in a row. That's all you want really to make the cut. You get top 30. That pays off right there. Who knows how the form holds? He's kind of been riding a little bit of a hot putter the last couple of weeks, but if you need to fit 2 guys in the top, I think Whaley you could do worse than Whaley at 6,400.
Yeah, if you're paying up for Rom, a guy like that pairs pretty well and allows you to kind of still have a reasonable chance at 5 of 6, 6 of 6, which is pretty important. When you're building your DK lineups, what's important? What's the structure you want to have this week? Some weeks it pays to be stars and scrubs. Obviously, the Masters seemed like one of those. Other weeks, like last week, you were talking about how you were avoiding the top tier. Where are you this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think Scott and I, it feels like we're in alignment on Rahm as potentially a cornerstone. And then probably, so that would be a star and a scrub, and then a lot of in between. I don't know if there's a catchy marketing name for that. One and one, and then just kind of fill it off in the middle. But that's what I was sort of inclined to do this week.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the same page. If on my Rahm lineups, I'll probably try and get one really cheap guy, but I think a balanced build starting with maybe Hovland or Finau in the high 9s, and then kind of getting some guys in the 8s and high 7s works really well too. So I'm leaning a little more balanced than normal, but I do want to get Rahm in on a lineup or 2. So in that format, I'll probably play either a Schenk or a Hahn, or maybe even a Whaley, based on what else I want to do in the middle there.
Yeah, can you even fit Rahm and Hovland in the same lineup? Is that it seems like that'd be very difficult.
You can, but you're taking some shots and you're hoping a couple of guys make the cut, and you're looking at. The problem is you get 4 out of 6 make the cut, and you're losing money this week. So you gotta get 5. You really want 6 in tournaments. Obviously, have any chance to win. It's there are builds that it works, but you better have some guys in the 6s that you really kind of hit on.
Yeah, even Rahm and Neiman. I mean, at 10-8 and 9-1, you're all of a sudden you're at an average of 75 for your remaining 4 spots.
Really tough this week.
By definition, you're almost getting somebody in the 6s, if not 2. So I can see how that. The roster builds can be tricky that way. Let's move on to the betting sheet here. You guys have alluded to a couple names here. What is yours going to look like? Well, we'll start off with Jeff again, and then we'll finish with Scott.
Well, I'm in on Webb Simpson 20-1. Obviously, if you're gonna aggressively target him in the daily fantasy, we'll stay with Rahm. I see him at 14-1. I know 12-1 on golf odds. I'll take a 12-1 profit on a guy who's like, what was the top 10 run, Scott? Something like 15 top 10s out of his last 20 events, something ridiculous.
It's 20 of 33. And it's 7 top 10s his last 9 tournaments.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So you feel like you got to put Rahm in it. At least you got something interesting to look at on Sunday. I'm on Willie Z 30-1. I'm bought into the Cinderella story at Augusta, and I feel like it may be coming soon. I like Answer 40-1, and then give me some Sugar Shane Lowry at 60-1. Those would be my bets for a straight ticket.
So I love Rahm this week, but I'm going to stay off. It's down to 10-1 on DraftKings. I usually just don't bet guys in that range. I mean, I really like him this week, but I usually don't bet there. My betting card is going to start probably with Victor Hovland at 20-1. I'll definitely be in on Joaquin Neiman at 35-1. I think Corey Connors at 33-1 is just too high for how well he's played. I think DraftKings, he's in the 9,000s. You can kind of argue for other guys there, but 33-1, I think he represents a really good chance to win. And then deeper down the card, I'm going to be betting Shane Lowry along with Jeff at 60-1. I'm actually have a couple bucks on Matt Wallace too. He's 70-1. I think he's a guy down here that actually has the ball striking to win this tournament. When you're looking down in the 60s and 70s, you want guys that can actually, you kind of squint and see a way they can win the tournament. So Lowry and Wallace down here, and then Neiman, Connors, and Hovland kind of in the mid range for me this week.
Do you ever compare and contrast betting odds versus DraftKings or FanDuel or any other prices to try to see if you can find those incongruences and find maybe a value with one or the other?
I definitely do. And I think we talked about the end of the show last week. Max Homa jumped out to me last week. He was 70-1 or 75-1 on DraftKings when we talked, and he was like 8,100 on DraftKings, or 70 and 71 on DraftKings Sportsbook and 8,100 on DraftKings for daily fantasy. And you look at that and you're like, obviously he's playing well, and you see the DraftKings prices, I think, adjust. And I definitely look at it. Every once in a while you see guys that jump out to you as the high DraftKings price, and then the odds are further down the board. I usually take a deeper look at those guys.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm sure others do, and it gets bet down by the time you act on it too.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
The joy of sports betting, though, once you lock in that bet, it's not like horse racing. Once you lock in that bet, that's your bet. So if you can get bets in like today, I try and do mine. I usually end up doing them Wednesday because I'm a procrastinator. But if you can get them in Tuesday night for guys that you think are gonna get some steam on them, it's a good thing to do.
Got to get it in now. People are absorbing this gaming golf episode, and I got to get my Shane Lowry in before the odds drop from our listeners.
When Jenstad and Ritter talk, markets move.
We got a live stream now. I mean, This is before it was an on-demand podcast. I had a little time to get myself taken care of. Now I got to do it in real time.
Yeah, jump on it there. We'll close with one and done. Who do you got this week?
I didn't make the pick yet. It's probably going to be either Lowry, Simpson, Rahm. I got to see who I haven't used yet. It's going to be one of those three for me.
Are we starting to get to the point where you start thinking about saving at all? Like saving some for the majors, or is this big enough that you want to like? I say that with Rahm obviously in mind. Yeah,
no, I'm okay using him this week if I haven't. I feel like I might have already. So it's probably Simpson, Lowry for me.
Yeah, I don't. I tend to not save guys in one and done just because if you win it, if you get a win, anytime you get a win, it's pretty big. Right. I haven't really looked there. I might go Lowry also. I looked at Simpson also, and I have Reed available, but I don't think I'm going to go him here. I might take a shot on Lowry this week also. Jeff, who are you taking? Jeff Erickson, who are you taking?
The reason I ask is I'm leaning wrong.
I've used him. Otherwise I might too. I love him this week.
Yeah. So if I don't use Rahm, I'm influenced by you guys now. I might go like Matt Wallace because both of you guys have been talking him up, but we'll see. The funny thing is like Wallace might be better in DK than in a one and done because can he actually win the tournament is the question mark. But these are all professional golfers. They could theoretically.
Yeah, and what do you use? 32 guys or something in one and done. I tend to think like trying to take a shot down the board is not usually the best idea unless you have a really good feel on a guy, especially in a tournament with a lot of names in it. It's hard to win tournaments. But we look at last week and nobody had in our one and done. We have a small one and done. We do I think with like 40 people. Nobody had Sam Burns and nobody had whoever the runner up. Nobody had Homa either. So it was an interesting week where taking a shot would have worked out. But usually. You're only using 32 guys. I try and stay away from mid-range guys mostly.
That makes sense. All right, that's going to wrap up the Wells Fargo preview. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Please shoot us questions. Shoot us tweets. Let us know what you want to hear. See if you have any feedback with us. We'd love to hear back from you. Thanks again for tuning in. Good luck in the Wells Fargo.